where the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, to the testimony of Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord, for thrones are set there for judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, may they prosper who love you. Peace be within your walls, prosperity within your palaces. For the sake of my brethren and companions, I will now say, peace be within you. Because of the house of the Lord, our God, I will seek your good. Hallelujah. Psalm 124 altogether. Blessed be the Lord who has not given us his praise with their teeth. Our soul has escaped as the birds from the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken, we have escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Hallelujah. Psalm 124 altogether. Blessed be the Lord who has not given us your grace and honor. From the Holy Ghost, we make to say that praise, blessing, fill us all. Amen. Now he arose from the synagogue and went to Simon's house, but Simon's wife's mother was sick with a high fever, and they made request of him concerning her. So he stood over her and rebuked the fever, and it left her, and immediately she arose and served them. And when the sun was setting, all those that had anyone sick with various diseases brought them to him, and he laid his hands on every one of them and healed them. And demons also came out of many, crying out and saying, "You are the Christ, the Son of God." He, rebuking them, did not allow them to speak, for they knew that he was the Christ. Glory be to God for all men. Ten oshtem ogoveches, ulasnen begotten of ulasnen biedne vaetova, yaki exoti emonaina. If the righteous one is scarcely saved, where shall I, the sinner, be? Because of my human weakness, I cannot bear the burden and the heat of the day. O you, the merciful God, count me among those of the 11th hour. And soon my mother conceived and gave birth to me. I should not dare look up to heaven, but because of your great mercy and love to humanity, I call to you, saying, Lord, forgive my sins and have mercy upon me. Take me now, my Savior, into your fatherly embrace, as I have spent my life in pleasures and desires. My time is running out, now depend on your rich and infinite compassion. Do not describe the humble heart who needs your mercy. I cry to your reverence, I have sinned against you and against heaven. I am no longer fit to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired workers. Amen. I practice evil diligence and enthusiasm. With earnestness and keenness, I committed each sin. For this I deserve suffering and condemnation. Our Lady Virgin Mary, guide me to the means of repentance. To you I plead, to you I seek supplication. I call for you to help, for lest I fail. Come to my rescue when my soul departs from my body. Defeat the conspiracies of the enemy. Shut the gates of hell, lest they swallow my soul. O blameless bride of the true Lord. O Lord, who has no mercy upon us, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy, Lord have
mercy. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, heaven and earth are full of glory and honor. God the Father Almighty, have mercy upon us. O Holy Trinity, have mercy upon us. O Lord God of hosts, be with us, for have mercy upon our tribulations and adversities of you. O God, absolve and forgive us our sins which we have done willingly and unwillingly, and those which we may have knowingly and unknowingly, the hidden and visible. O Lord, forgive us for the sake of your holy name that is stored upon us, and according to your mercy, not to our sins. O Lord, make us worthy to pray, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, to forgive us our trespasses, and forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us away from evil, us, O Lord. Thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Thank you, compassionate Lord, for you granted us to pass this day in peace, brought us safely to the night, made us worthy of seeing your light until sunset. Accept this glorification we now offer you, and save us from the temptations of the enemy, defeat all his traps set against us. In this coming night, give us peace without pain or anxiety, fatigue, or illusion, so we may pass through the night in peace and chastity, and awake to praise you and pray to you. At all times and everywhere we glorify and praise your name, your Father and the Holy Spirit forevermore. Amen. O God, have mercy upon us, for you are always worshipped and glorified in heaven and on earth. O Christ, our good Lord, gracious and patience, mercy and compassion, who loves the just and shows mercy to all sinners against one of the first. Who does not wish therefore the sinner but repentance and life, only us all the salvation for the promised forthcoming rewards. O Lord, accept our prayers of this hour and every hour. Ease our lives and guide us to act according to your commandments. Sanctify our souls, purify our bodies, set right our thoughts, cleanse our intentions, heal our sickness, sins, and deliver us from every evil, grief, and distress. Surround us with your holy angels that we've been guided and guarded with them to attain the unity of faith and knowledge of the intercept and infinite glory. We are blessed forever. Amen. Silent prayer. We'll sing our second together. O seeker to meet Jesus, forget your hunger and thirst. Your food is the bread of life, and your drink from his the side, and your drink from his wounded side, and your drink from his wounded side. Your food is the bread of life, and your drink from his wounded side. You traveler, forget the past and go steadfast in the path. If you suffer on the road, remember for you he died. Remember for you he died. Remember for you he died. If you suffer on the road, remember for you he died. The trumpet will be heard soon with happiness and sounds of joy, a great feast above the clouds and the ground for the watchful, and the crown for the watchful, and the crown for the watchful, a great feast above the clouds, and the crown for the watchful. He'll prepare a place for you. He's always waiting for you. His heart is longing for you. Blessed are you if you are prepared. Blessed are you if you are prepared. Blessed are you if you are prepared. His heart is longing for you. Blessed are you if you are prepared. You're a part in Jesus Christ. You lives among the rocks and the fear from all dangers. Your protection protected by the Lord. You're protected by the Lord. Have no fear from what dangers. You're protected by the Lord. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. The intercessions of Saint Mary, Saint Barbara, Saint Noufer, Saint Joanna, Lord God, the saints. Our Lord, hear us as we pray, thankfully, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy kingdom in heaven, give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, and those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Jesus Christ, the Lord, Christ, King of heaven.
All right, hello everyone. Thank you for your patience with us. And thank you everyone for your patience with us as well. So welcome back to St. Barbara's on a beautiful Sunday evening. God willing, today will be the final talk in our 4-part series, which is on virtue in the life of the saints. So we've looked at a few of our saints and specific virtues in their lives. Our first saint was, of course, our patron saint, St. Barbara. Then we looked at Pope Carlos, the man of prayer and his liturgical prayer. And then we looked at St. Polycarp last week, and God willing this week, Father John St. Noufer will be covering us on Saint Noufer, our patron saint, the anchorite. But before we get into the fantastic talk prepared by Father John, we have a pre-talk today. So please put a hand together for Helena.
Okay, hi guys. So today I thought I would do the topic on obedience, and one of the main one that I'm going to start with is Saint Mary. So we know that Mary, she was 13 years old, and we know that Gabriel had come down, and we know mostly in this modern generation, 13-year-olds are all immature, like to have fun, they like to play and everything. But with Saint Mary, it was completely different, and she had full faith in the Lord that she will bear a son, and that will be the son of God. And once, like, the angel came down to ask her, can you obey this child? Of course she obeyed and she said yes, and she went straight to Elizabeth to tell her. So my second story was Abraham and Sarah. So we know that Abraham and Sarah lived a long life, and they were almost at an age where they can't give birth to anyone or anything. So God had told them that you're going to bear a son. And they're like, how is this possible? Like, it's possible, we're going to turn 100 soon. And then the next year when they turn 100, that's when she bore Isaac. And then there was another story where there was a sacrifice of the lamb. So instead of it being a lamb, the one that we actually eat, it was God asked Abraham, can you sacrifice your son Isaac on the lamb slaughter on the stone? And so he's like, had full faith in him, and he said, okay, I will do it. Took Isaac, but he knew that he was obedient to God, so he didn't. And God's like, no, this is your only son, you get to keep him. And then the last story I have is the woman who committed adultery. And so this one was Jesus was himself caught out people who were able to stone the adulteress. And so we know that a group of people took her out and were chasing her with a stone. And then we know that Jesus was sitting at on the floor with his rocks and everything. And so he told them, if you are all with no sin, then you cast a stone to her. So it's kind of like related to us, where we are all the same, we are all in sin, we are all not perfect, so why should we judge others? So they obviously obeyed, and then they all left and everything. I will end this with a verse from Romans 12:2. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you thank you very much, Helena. So now we'll just put our hands together for Abuna John Saint Noufer, because for him to cover our final topic of the series, which, like I mentioned earlier, is on Saint Noufer, the anchorite. We have his relics at the back, so feel free to, after the talk, take his blessing. But we'll just wait for Abuna to come in and bless us with his presence. Stop there, Abuna.
Ben, Annie,
Yes.
I can't share my screen still.
Second, Abuna. Oh, because YouTube. Yeah, so we need YouTube. I'll do this. 1 second, Abuna.
They were both delayed. I delayed you, you delayed me. Wave.
So you can't share.
Looks like this is your first time to do this job.
Yeah, go again. Abuna. Can you talk for us again?
Yeah, is this your first time to do this job?
Yeah. 1 second. The TV's on the other TV. Just use the microphone. Try again, Abuna. Speak.
Yeah, I can speak, no problem. I'm talking about sharing the screen.
It's from the TVs. Okay. You can't share your screen, that's what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay,
Just make him host.
go ahead. Try again now.
Yeah, now I can. Well done.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay,
The TV.
let me just, no, it's coming from here now. We'll get the remote and then we can just turn off the TVs. Abuna. Would you like me to speak?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm alive.
Yeah. we're just trying to figure out the audio. Put this the computer audio up. It's full. This is full. So where does it come from? It's come from the back. Want to speak? Can you speak for us, Abuna?
Yeah,
Maybe
hello,
sing some
hello.
tunes for us.
And Becker is was
1 second. Okay.
How about you talk me?
1 second.
Amplify the sound from the floor.
1 second. 1 second. Here we go. You got Abuna? Talk.
and Becker. Oh, talk not sing. Yeah.
How about amplify the sound from the front?
You can, if you get the TV remote, you can.
Guys, while we're all waiting, can everyone just shuffle forward? So everyone at the back, there's no need for you guys to be at the back. We can all just come
You guys speak again, Abuna?
forward.
And Becker is Ken, hello. Hello. Can I help you?
Talk now, Buna.
Yeah, hello?
Hello.
Hello? Yes. This is why you should stick to live speakers.
Keep talking, Abuna, please.
Yeah, all right. I'll keep talking to I should probably sing something or something. I'll do psalms or something.
Yes, sir.
Lord, how they increase to trouble me. Many are they that rise up against me. Many are they that is no fear of God, but you are the shield for me. My God, the one that lifts up my head. I cried to Lord my voice, and you heard me from his holy hill. I lay down and slept. I woke for the Lord sustained me. I wouldn't be afraid of 10,000 people set before me all and arise, Lord, save me, O God. You have broken these arms, and salvation belongs to your people. Your blessings to all the people. Hear me, my call, my God. Righteous, you believe, mercy, have mercy, and pray. How long ago your sons
Sorry. We're good to go. We sorted out the TVs.
Okay.
All right.
Want me to start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Sure. Heavenly Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and God, Amen. Thank you so much for inviting me, Ben. I still don't know why you want to have a Zoom talk when you can have a live speaker, but thank you again very much to everyone there involved. I said the same thing to Bishoy last year. I said no a few times to a Zoom talk, but he insisted and Ben insisted, so okay. So the topic is virtues in the life of the saints of Saint Noufer. So it's the last one in the series, and focusing on Saint Noufer. So the intro, talk about sainthood, talk about Saint Noufer, the home, obviously, and the topic was given from Ben. Ben is spiritual minimalism / simplicity. It's weird, I can hear the echo, that's all right. So focusing on simplicity. And you, Ben wrote, if you could please discuss the life of Saint Noufer, his virtues, and how his life in the wilderness for 60 years was offered as a service to God. So I'll try to discuss that. I put examples, biblical and others. How do you attain simplicity? That's from for the question that you asked. Can you measure simplicity? And you also put, what steps can we take to actively pursue simplicity or just being practical? And I put video, and I changed the color if we have time to do that. So we'll talk about, try to talk about these things. Again, many thanks, Ben, for the opportunity. All right, and yeah, keep it simple, science. When I think of simple, I think of, like when I used to work as a teacher, keeping it simple, science, KISS. So we'll try to focus on these things. First, we just want to look back. I know that Ben, he put spiritual minimalism
And the thing is, I don't really like the term spiritual minimalism. Why I don't like the term? If you look at it, it's really kind of like a worldly perspective when you talk about spiritual minimalism. It's about not being like attached to the world, but that's as far as it goes. Spiritual minimalism doesn't really involve God in the concept. And if you do any research, I like decided to do some research on spiritual minimalism. I found a very unusual like website, and I took a screenshot of it for you there, and I'm not joking. It's literally a paid course. You pay money to perform a spiritual minimalism, but again, it's from a worldly perspective. And you see, it tells you here, detach from stuff and manifest the life of your dreams. Yeah, but like the life of I guess, a worldly dream. What's included? Like, yeah, you can see what's there. And it's $12 per month. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. So I just wanted to clarify. I don't really like the term spiritual minimalism because, like I said, I think it focuses from a worldly perspective. We want to talk about a spiritual perspective, the spiritual perspective of simplicity. So we'll try to do that from that angle. So I just wanted to clarify that. And again, I find it very hard to believe $12 a month. And I forgot the name of the woman who runs it, but you can go on there and there's lots of videos. And I guess I watched like part of a video. I guess some videos are good, but again, there's no basis behind it, behind this detaching from stuff and trying to manifest the life of your dreams. Okay, but I want to talk about Saint Noufer briefly because the question is virtue in the life of the saints. And I think it's important just to quickly touch on the sainthood part. The thing is, to talk about sainthood, I feel too often we view, like we're going to talk about Saint Noufer obviously a bit. At Saint Noufer, we can view him as someone that's like, okay, he's a saint, yes, but also we can't attain what he's attained in any real shape or form. Like it's certainly not to his level. So he's the same and we're not. I just wanted to back down from this a little bit and again emphasize, I'm sure you heard this before, that sainthood it has very little to do with actually like living such a righteous life. It's got more to do with like we're all called to be saints. It's got more to do with struggling against sin and being one with God. Like if you partake of communion, you are a saint. That's the church definition. Why do we say that? It's written in the epistles. Called to be saints, to the epistle to this city, and also we say in the liturgy, every single liturgy, it says the holies are for the holy, and the priest usually says that out loud. Sometimes they forget, or sometimes they do it silently. But if you're partaking of communion, and you're in line with God in communion, that is therefore sainthood. Just to step up, just to mention that point. And because you had a topic recently called Perfectly Imperfect, which I thought was, I don't want to sound too offensive, but I didn't like the topic you called Perfectly Imperfect, because by itself, I think it's again talking from a worldly perspective. It's English saying you're perfectly imperfect. They never clarified the title, and I specifically asked, can you clarify this title? Why? You put the title Perfectly Imperfect, and you talked about various saints and in the series. And the answers I got, I don't think were very good. Here's my question. I asked a few questions, but this was my first one. I personally think the title of the series is a bit unclear, intentionally misleading. Like everybody is imperfect because everyone sins, but not everybody is, quote, perfect, quote unquote, perfect. Can you elaborate? I would have put a title like Perfectly Imperfect in Christ, or, like struggling against sin. And I don't think it was clarified. And the answers that I got is because these saints, like I think it was female saints, Rahab, the wife of Uriah, Mary, and one or two more. And one of the answers I got is, look, these people are saints. Why? Because they're in the genealogy of Christ. I go, but that kind of like, it's flawed logic, because if you look at the genealogy of, for example, of Judah, the kings of Judah, At best, 8 were righteous, and out of I think 20. And so I just want to emphasize that sainthood and being perfect, quote unquote perfect, is struggling against sin. In the short answer, so we are called to be saints, yes, and we're not called to necessarily lead the life of Saint Noufer. I remember reading a book, Father Abdul Masih al-Habashi, and if anyone's read this book, like he led an extreme life, kind of like Saint Noufer style. He was a solitary monk, and he did extreme things, and even like he refused to take a plane, and in his last days, and he walked to Israel, or God knows how he got there. Pope Shenouda said, I don't know how he got there. I don't know how he left. We never heard from him after that. And so he did extreme things. And if you read the book, at the end they have like a section saying, the question is, are we called to like imitate this person, imitate Father Abdul Masih al-Habashi, and we can ask the same question: are we called to imitate the life of Saint Noufer? And the answer was emphatically no. We're not called to do that. We are called, like that was his calling, specific calling, and it's individual to each person. But we are called to aspire to live like righteously, and we can take inspiration from their lives. So we can take parts of that. Everyone's unique. Everyone has like a different calling, quote unquote. So I think that's just important to clarify. And I never liked the title. I never got a good answer. So because you gave me a platform to speak, I get to say that. And because last time I was asking the question on Zoom, and that's just a funny picture, just to show you that perfectly imperfect is, I think, is a misleading term, even though it was never answered. And we're going to embarrass the person who I didn't like the answer. He's not in the country, so we can embarrass him. He can't defend himself. Okay. Let's talk about Saint Noufer the Hermit. We're not going to read the story because you can read it for yourself, to be honest. You know the story, read it for yourself. I can't see anyone on the screen, but if I can ask a question, try one or twice to be engaging. What comes to the mind of when you hear Saint Noufer? Doesn't have to be a virtue. Absolutely anything. I'm not proceeding, like keep going until I get one or two answers. And Ben, you can pick, please, because I can't see anyone.
Yeah, sure. We'll go around with the mic.
You don't have to pick 50 people, just like 2 or 3.
Can you repeat the question again, Abuna, please?
What comes to your mind? Oh, there's a question. There. There's the question. What comes to your mind?
Thank you, Abuna.
Anything. What comes to mind when you say Saint Noufer? You can look at the picture.
His beard.
Yeah.
Solitude.
Yeah, solitude. Yeah. So that's a virtue. I guess that's like he's living a solitary life. Yeah, like I mean, one with God. Anything else? Any other virtues that you think of?
I think we're all out. Yeah.
You're all out. I'll give you a clue. What should be the virtue for today's talk? It's kind of in the title of the talk. If you bother to read the messages, what's the virtue? What's the virtue that Benny is describing of you?
He was a humble man.
No, that's not the answer. It's like, yeah. Look to the message. This is a very, very easy question. Benny, you sent messages to the group, right? Yes,
I did. I sent a message.
Obviously, Benny knows the answer. Simplicity, yes, well done. For today's, the purpose of today's talk, it's simplicity. So yeah, what comes to my mind, this is what I came up with. I think it's extreme. So this is not exactly a virtue because you can be extreme, but like extremely doing the wrong things. And you can even be I should clarify, like solitude is not necessarily a virtue because you can be in extreme in solitude, but not, living with God, quote unquote. So I think it's extreme. Why is he extreme? For those people that don't know much of the story, I mean, he didn't see. He went into he's a solitary monk, like he lived as a hermit, and he didn't see anyone for 60 years. That's really extreme. Even if you ever visit, like I visited a few hermit monks or solitary monks, and they all, like, none of them don't see anyone for 60 years. And usually, like for example, last year I was visiting a hermit monk at Saint Noufer Monastery. He was a very, very nice monk. I really enjoyed spending time with him. And he, at best, he will come back once a week to the main part of the monastery and get some food and go back. I think it's really unheard of that someone will spend a considerable amount of time away without seeing anyone. 60 years is extreme. It's really extreme. And even like once I was on a retreat, I was on a local retreat, and the monastery was very, very quiet, and the retreat center was very quiet. So I didn't see anyone at best, maybe 3 days, 4 days, so I haven't gone a week. And I thought that was extreme. So 6 years. All right, just a bit of the summary, sure, of Saint Noufer. So Saint Noufer, for those that don't know the story, briefly. So Saint Noufer, he became a monk in one of the monasteries in Egypt, and then he heard about like solitary monks, and the most famous story that came to his mind was Elijah. And Elijah in the Bible is really like he's like a solitary. He's a solitary monk. He moved place to place. He did extreme things, and he was courageous. So he was attracted to this thought, and he asked around, "Can I be like a solitary monk? I want to do this. I want to like live out." And he would consult people in the monastery about what he should do to go out. And then, actually, he didn't even consult. He just kind of like packed his bags for a few days. I think he had like enough food for like 4 days. So he took an extreme decision to go out and take some bread and just let God guide him. And as he went out for a few days, he wasn't the first to do this, like to be a hermit. And then he met someone on the way that was a hermit monk, and then he spent time with him. It actually mentioned the name of this hermit, and then he guided him. He taught him how to live the life in a cave, and what he should do, the spiritual practices, the spiritual discipline, and then like after a period of time, he went with this hermit monk to go out, and like God guided him to find the place, and he found the cave. And the other hermit monk told him, "Saint Noufer, this is your place." All right, I was still going to be in contact. We'll still visit each other. I think they used to visit once a year. He used to visit him once a year until he passed away. And he started to live this solitary life in a cave. And he said, Saint Noufer said in like his biography, that it was so hard at the beginning, like I guess so hard throughout the whole time. He went through a lot of temptation, a lot of tribulation. And then he wanted to like leave. He wanted to give up, and he goes, "I have to come back to the main monastery." But he remembered that when he was in the monastery, he said, "It's a great blessing to be outside a solitary monk if you can do it, if God gives this grace. Because in the monastery, if you live among monks, you're being cared for by other people. When we're tired, we have someone to help us. When we're hungry, we have someone to feed us. When we're scared, I guess we have someone to comfort us." So he wanted to try to take this extreme. And then he lived there. He developed a spiritual practice. He developed a spiritual discipline, a spiritual routine. And God gave him the ability to overcome the beast, which is pretty much every hermit kind of like does this, because they're living around with serpents and scorpions. So it's very common, like Saint Basum, Elaine, there's many saints. Saint Matthew the First, you probably don't know much about him, but they all have this ability to tame the beast. And what he's famous for for not seeing someone for 60 years, yes. He's also famous for how he got his food. So he had bread, but then he has here, and you look at these two icons. This actually icon on the top, this is from the church. See a picture of the cluster of the dates. And he would get 12, he would get one cluster of dates per month to eat, which was sufficient for him. And then you also see here that Saint Noufer, if you didn't know, he's actually famous in other churches, not just famous in the Coptic. If this is a picture in the Russian tradition, and if you ever go to Russia, like one of the fathers here went to Russia, and he's famous not just in Russia, other countries. I remember Romania. I got a gift from someone who went to Romania. He's famous in other countries, other European countries. They have like a monastery of Saint Noufer, maybe not monastery, but churches. I took this photo from the church of Saint Noufer in Russia. So he's famous for that. He's also apparently, this was interesting to me when I read an additional biography, that he's like the patron saint of business. I don't know how he's the patron saint of business when he didn't really deal with money, but I think because he was so blessed. And it's interesting. He also said that if anyone like pours out in my name, kind of like Saint Caras, he will be blessed. I'll get to you that quote. Yeah, so he lived his life there for 60 years, and then about 60 years, and then God guided one of the other saints and the monks in the monastery, called Saint Pavnotios, to go out in the desert. And he went out in the desert, and he didn't know what he was going to do. He just felt like God was guiding him to go out, and he met someone on the way again. An angel guided him and helped him to direct him to Saint Noufer. And initially, when he saw Saint Noufer, he was very scared. Like it actually says, he was terrified. And I guess you would be looking at this long beard and being naked. And he climbed up into a tree, Saint Pavnotius. But then Saint Noufer calls out to him and tells him, Saint Noufer calls out to him and he calls him by name, Pavnotius, no, come down. So God got him the spirit who he was, tells him, come down. God has guided you to come meet me and to bury me. And to bury me tomorrow. He saw him for one night. And Saint Pavnotius asked him, please tell me your story, your life story, what happened. And he described what we just said. And he lived 60 years without seeing the face of anyone. And God granted him the gifts to overcome the trials and tribulations. And he talked to him about how his food. And Pavnotius even asked Saint Noufer, okay, can I please live in your cave after you pass away? And he told him, no, it's not the will of God. It's not the will of God. And then you just come to bury me and go back to the monastery. And then after he passes away, he buries him, and God guides Pavnotius again. Doesn't show in this picture, but he is guided by I think a couple of lions to dig, because he's old man, he can't dig, underground. And he buries him, and then after that, Saint Pavnotius, he still insists, I'm going to live in this cave, even though Saint Noufer told him no. And he gets a clear sign that he can't live there. Why? Because the cluster of trees, the dates wither, and the cave even collapsed. His cave collapses. And God knows, I assume it's obviously not preserved today, and we don't have any remnants. So yeah, it's a really nice story. You can read it, of course, in the Cynic Sarum, and there's one small book that I saw, and then you have a copy of another book. So I thought extreme, and I'm sorry, I should mention why he had long hair. He had long hair because for God to comfort him during the extreme temperatures in winter, especially in winter. So God gave him the clothing, the beard to go all the way down to the bottom. I even met some bishop. I got his name. Can't remember his name, but he has a massive beard, like Saint Noufer style. What's his name? Oh, he visited the monastery. I forgot his name. Anyway, extreme. Yeah, the other thing that comes to mind, faithful. And this is like one of my favorite lines, let faith overcome your fear. Anytime someone asks me for advice about monasticism really, or I guess in general, but particularly monasticism, people that think about becoming monks, I say, let faith overcome your fear. And I think Saint Noufer did that greatly, because it's fearful living out in the desert. like I'm a monk. I can't imagine. Can't imagine. Obviously, he was very silent. 6 years without talking to anyone, without seeing anyone. So he was obviously silent. Yeah, my record's probably like 3-4 days. I wasn't silent, but there's no one there to talk to, I guess. Very disciplined, obviously. I think very is an understatement. It was extremely disciplined. You'd have to have a spiritual routine. When you're out in the cave, like just today, there was some visitors from Syria, like a Syrian Orthodox church. And they always ask the same questions. What do you do here all day? How do you fill your time? Like, you have a spiritual routine. Do you get bored? You have to be disciplined. You have to have like a spiritual routine, and God will guide you. Like you have the desire, God will guide you. So he was obviously very disciplined. Very is again understatement. It's probably extremely disciplined. You have to be. And for the purpose of today's talk, he was simple. This is just a couple of quotes from his book. Like I said, I thought this was nice. I never read this book before. So recently, if anyone offers the holy sacrifice, this is Saint Noufer speaking, for the love of my name and the sight of our Lord Jesus Christ, and gives himself wholly to the praise of God, he will be able to resist all the temptation of the devil. And he'll be free. It's a bit like Saint Karas. If anyone knows the story, Saint Karas, he said, anyone that mentions my name or has my name, he will receive like blessings fivefold, like 5 blessings. In the end of the book, it says, in conclusion, the life of Saint Noufer shows us that the more we sacrifice for God, the more grace he will give us and the more we will love our Lord. And yeah, so to answer the first part of the question, like at the beginning, Ben asked, expand his life as a sacrifice for God. I think the more that we do that in small ways, he will give us more grace. Yeah, and fight against ourselves and our ego. That's a nice quote. That's why I put it in there. Okay, simplicity. What on earth is simplicity? If you look up I guess I'm not going to ask it again, but if you look up simplicity, what is it? You're not really going to find a good definition. I say living simply. What does that mean? Doesn't really answer the question. I think it's hard to define. I don't think it means just possessions. I don't think Benjamin was just talking about possessions. I think he was talking about other things. I think he was talking about like being simple of the mind and the heart. That's very important, because you can have like very few possessions but not be a simple person. So I put mind in the heart, and I think this is really, and it's important. Like what comes to mind: do not be political. This may not apply too much when you're younger, but when you're older, I guess politics everywhere, in church, outside of church, and it's very important to have like a simple mind, have like the mind of Christ, have like the mind of a child. Be simple. Don't be overthink. Be obedient. We're here as Christians to obey the commands of God and obey our church leaders. We're not there to be arrogant and to disobedient and to think politically and to say my way, and we're there for the Spirit. I remember we had a visiting priest here from Eritrea, and he came to the upstairs kitchen with the fathers, and then he was asking us, can you give us some advice? He was at the end of his 40 days, and can you give us some advice? And one of the fathers said, my best advice for you, Father, don't be political in your service. Don't be political in your service. Focus on serve. He goes, just serve, just serve. That's being simple in mind and heart. I think being simple in food, yeah, I'm the biggest hypocrite of this, but it's good to be simple with your food. That's why we have fasting days, Wednesday and Fridays, and the church fast are there to eat simply. Don't have to think about being too creative and putting a fancy meal. Eat poor man's food. Eat the lentils, eat the full. They're simple foods, and they're filling. Staple foods. Yeah, I wish I did that a bit better. I think it's hard to define simplicity, so maybe it's easier to define the opposite. Look at the opposite, which is like greed. Anyone know what the biblical term of greed is? I don't know why I'll give another chance for the people. Anyone know what the biblical term of greed might be in the Bible? I'll give you a clue. It's one of the commandments. 10 commandments. Benny, your turn to ask someone, please.
Anyone know, guys?
One of the 10 commandments.
Do not steal.
No, it's not stealing. It's keep going with the number.
Keep going through the
It's a biblical term that it's not common, but I'll give you one more big clue. It's the last commandment. I wish I could see the people, then I could really target them.
Everyone's terrified of women.
No, look it up in the Bible, the 10th commandment. I think I'm being too patient.
So she said covet.
Yes, that's it. Exactly right. So yeah, that's the biblical term for greed, a more biblical term. You don't hear it too often. You don't really hear say someone is covetous, but if someone is is covetous, it's they're not being simple. They're being very greedy. They're being very selfish. And I guess a couple of questions. Generally, the more rich you are, what happens in general in terms of giving? You think it goes up or down? Percentage-wise.
They said down or what?
Yeah, down 100%. Percentage-wise, yeah. Okay. And then another question. Also, the more you possess, because sometimes you say, if I have more, I'll give more. All right. And sometimes say, if I possess more, then if I just had a bit more money, then I wouldn't worry so much. But what do you think? If you possess more, what happens in terms of your anxiety or worry?
It increases.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. And you just think about it from a logical perspective. Like if you have a lot of possessions and you're attached to money, attached to possession, you constantly think about them and you worry about them. Like if you had, I remember Abuna Antonio Scaldes, he said, I remember when I was young, I used to have the most cheap car ever. The Datsun car, it took forever to start. I never ever closed the windows because no one ever would steal this car. It was so cheap. You know what I mean? Now we'll worry about if I have a more expensive car, if someone does a little scratch, it's game over. The whole world knows about it. Yeah, so generally speaking, of course there's exceptions, but generally speaking, the more you possess, the richer you have, you give less and you worry more. But it's not a rule. And that's why the Bible says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. It's a very important verse. Yeah, marriage. I just wanted to bring this up because sometimes we think that what does it mean by be anxious for nothing? And the thing is, it's not just about possessions. We can make anything of God. So sometimes if it's not possessions, it can be just worrying about another person, and we can be so consumed with that worrying about another person. So even the Bible talks about, you don't want to make your wife like a god. You don't want to be worry about them too much. And that's just why it has a quote like that, but better not talk about that too much. Okay, so we always want to be anxious for nothing and everything by prayer and supplication. With thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. God called us always to say, don't worry about the matter too much. God will deal with it. God will have his timing, has his plan. And it says that in the book of Habakkuk that God has his timing. So it tarries, it's a delay, it will not tarry. Oh yeah, just one person that I thought was a very simple person. It was Amber Epiphanios, whom I met before he passed away. And I went to his cemetery last year in Egypt. That just says Amber Epiphanios. And if you look at the cemetery, the tafus, they call it in the monasteries, it's not very, he's not very special there. Even though he was the bishop of the monastery, he was the only bishop of Saint Noufer monastery, and they don't have a bishop today. and he was like, I mean, he was murdered, and we could view him as like a big saint. So they could have done like a big shrine for him, but St. Macarius didn't. All they did, they just made like a little bit bigger tombstone. So you look at it, see here, a tombstone, just a little bigger than the others. I thought it was very simple. I just took a photo of it when I was there, and I thought, yeah, that's really. He was a simple person, and they you know, even in his death, they buried him in a simple way, like St. Macarius stuff. I thought that was significant, at least. And I did meet him. I had the honor of meeting him and spending a lot of time in Rome. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of biblical stories. Try and go through as quick as I can. So we mentioned an example of like opposite of simplicity is like covetous. So we want to talk about someone who's covetous in the Bible called Gehazi. But we've got to talk about Naaman, the Syrian before. It's a little bit long, so we'll just try to skip bits and pieces. For those that don't know the story at all, in the second book of 2 Kings 5, this is Naaman, the Syrian, and we see he's got, he had leprosy, those are the white spots there, and he's washing in the pool of Siloam. So how about we just go through a few verses quickly. 2 Kings 5.
Do you want someone to read it, Warner? What's happened? Warner.
The Naaman, who is he? He is a commander of the army of the king of Syria. All right, so he's a very prominent person. He's a commander. He's not like a big soldier. He's the commander, and he's a great and honorable man. All right, and he'd given victory to Syria. It's also said that Naaman, tradition says, I don't think we can't prove it, but it's also a tradition that he was the one who killed King Ahab, the evil king of Israel, and that's why kind of like God gave him blessings, at least in this story. All right. So again, he's a commander of the army, great and honorable man, and he had like great victory, and he probably killed King Ahab. And a mighty man of valor. So we've got like 4 key things. But if we just stop there, that would be like amazing. Naaman would be amazing. But it says here, verse 1, but a leper. So really, like, and leprosy at that time, I mean, even today, but at that time, it's viewed really, really, you're an outcast if you have leprosy. And it's an incurable disease at that time. And he's going to die from it. So all that good things he had, being the commander, being such a prominent person, it goes out the window. He view him as an outcast because he was a leper. All right, and then he tries to, he wants to get healed from his leprosy, verse 3. And someone tells him, like one of the young girls tells him, if only my master were with the prophet here is Elisha, who was in Samaria, for he would heal him of his leprosy. Basically saying that there's a person that can heal you, Naaman. His name is Elisha. Go see him. And Naaman went in and told his master that this girl told me this. Verse 5. Then the king of Syria said, go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver. That's a lot of money, 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. All right, and then he goes on. Let's skip through verse 7. And then the king of Israel, he read the letter that he received from Naaman, which is like, I need to be, can you please heal me? Like through Elisha. And he's like, who am I to heal? Like, I'm not God. He tore his clothes and said, am I God to kill and make alive, that this man sends a man to me to heal him of his leprosy? And therefore, please consider and see how he seeks a quarrel with me. He thought it was like, you're just trying to have an argument, because remember, Syrians and Israelites don't get along. Verse, I just want to skip so we can save time. Verse 8, Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes. Why have you, and he said, why have you torn your clothes? please let him come to me and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. And then verse 10 is on the screen. And Elisha sent a messenger to him saying, go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and you shall restore to you, and you shall be clean. So Elisha, so Naaman goes to see, like he gets advice to go see Elisha, right? Because he's the righteous prophet. And you got to ask the question, why would he go see Elisha? He's not a Jew. He's not a Jew. Okay, he's not. He wants to be healed from his leprosy. It's the most embarrassing thing you can have. You're an outcast, even though such a prominent person. And Elisha sent a message to him. So when he goes to see Naaman, so when Naaman goes to see Elisha, he doesn't actually go and see him. He just sends a message, like through a messenger, go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and you shall be healed, your flesh shall be restored to you, and you shall be clean. And remember, he's the king, he's the commander of an army. So this is like insulting. How dare you not greet me? You're supposed to heal me. At least greet me. Come out and see my face. And Naaman became furious and went away and said, indeed, I said to myself, he will surely come out to me, he meaning Elisha, and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the place and heal the leprosy. Like he's expecting Elisha just to give him a blessing to the sign of the cross. All right, I'm going to be healed. Not literally the sign of the cross, but like do some magic or do something. But he doesn't even greet him. And he tells him to go wash in the Jordan 7 times. And remember, he's not from that region, Naaman, and the rivers are far away. And why 7 times? This is exactly not what he's expecting. He's expecting a completely different answer. And sometimes that happens with us when we expect like a different way for God to work and we don't listen. And that's what he says here. Aren't the rivers of this area better, where he's from, than the waters of Israel? So he turned and went away in a rage. If you pause the story there, okay, if you were to just say from end the story at verse 12, you would say he wouldn't get healed, obviously. He would have gone back to Syria, his hometown, and just died a leper. He would not have received the blessing of God. But then his servants came to, like they were a lifeline. His servants came near and spoke to him and said, my father, if the prophet had told you to do something great, would you not have done it? How much more then when he says to you, wash and be clean? Remember, he's the commander of the army, like we said like 5 times. These are his inferiors, his servants. He doesn't have to listen to them. If anything, he tells them what to do. He doesn't listen to them pretty much never. But on this occasion, he's humbled. He accepts, being humbled. And you got to give him credit for listening to his servants, listening to his inferior, even though he's a superior. So he went and dipped 7 times in the Jordan, and then he was clean. He was clean. I know we wanted to just talk about that story because it leads into the next one, Gehazi. And if you read it for yourself, after that he's healed. He goes to Elisha, take all this money, and I think it's like 12 talents, which is a lot of money. Like I heard an estimate like $1.2 million. But of course, Elisha says, I'm not taking any of your money. I don't want any gifts. Okay, he's not a covetous person. He's a simple person, like Saint Noufer, and he doesn't take it. And that's just a picture of Gehazi. Gehazi does take the money. He does ask for money after. Again, we'll read this quickly. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, who saw what was going on, said, look, my master has spared Naaman the Syrian, and not receiving from his hand what he brought. But as the Lord lives, I'll run after him and take something from him. I put it in bold. He ran after him. Like he really desired the money. He was covetous. He wasn't simple. And he said, all is well. Has he sent me? Indeed. and he says, please give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments. So Naaman said, please take 2 talents. So Naaman gave him 2 talents, which is still a lot of money. If you do the percentage, like 1/6 of it, 1.2 million, that's like $200,000. So Naaman was very, very, very rich. And he urged him and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of garments, and them to 2 of his servants. So it was so heavy, like he gave him so much possessions that he needed 2 other people to carry, the 2 of his servants, and they carried them on ahead of him. So we see here an example of someone being covetous. And yeah, we want to be simple. We don't look towards the money. We don't look towards the possessions. Our life is not about this. Our life is the spirit. You can't take the money with you when you die. And if anyone reads the rest of the story, it doesn't end well for Gehazi. He gets the leprosy for taking the possessions, for being covetous. And other people as well, like Daniel. Remember when Daniel, when the king asked him to interpret the dreams for him, and he tells him, I'm going to give you all these gifts. Daniel goes, look, I don't want your gifts. I'll interpret the dream, but God gave me this gift and God gave me this grace and for your benefit. I don't want any of your money. Any of your money. So I want to be like Elisha, not Gehazi, like Saint Noufer, like these examples. One more quick example. I say quick every time and I'm not that quick. All right, Mordecai. I thought this was an example of someone being he's like simple. This is what I think. I'll tell you why. Again, briefly, Mordecai was the uncle of the famous Queen Esther. And long story short, he saved the king at the time he found out about they were going to kill him, make a plan to kill him. And he found out about that, and then like he was saved, and those men tried to planned an assassinate, like attempted murder, assassinate him. They were hung on the gallows. And then after this story, nothing happens. Like Mordecai doesn't say anything in the Bible about it. Nothing's really said about him. He doesn't get any gifts. He doesn't get any reward. You got to give him credit for wanting to save the king. He didn't have to. He could have like let him die if he wanted to, I guess. But he revealed the king, and I don't think he was doing it for the money because he got nothing for it. He was doing it because he's an honest, simple person. And then you skip forward a few chapters, and then what happens to him? Let's just picture again of Mordecai and his daughter, his niece Esther. And you see here, this is Mordecai being paraded. So here it is, again, quickly. So yeah, he finds out about the story. The king asks, what has been done for him? Like what the reward has been given to Mordecai for revealing this plot that the king will be killed. Nothing. And then he says, let a robe be brought on the king which has worn, and it for the vainglory. He's not in it to try to be famous. And I think that's a good example here. I think he was uncomfortable. I personally think Mordecai was uncomfortable because simple people do not like the spotlight. They don't want to be famous. They don't want to be known. They don't want to show off. They don't have possessions because they're not big on this stuff. They don't seek positions and so forth. So I think that's a good example here of Mordecai being a simple person. He would not have enjoyed the parade, but I guess this is a blessing from God. And yeah, us ourselves, we don't want to be in the forefront. We want to be in the background. And again, back to Proverbs 6, he says, he who seeks honor will flee for him. But he who doesn't, seek honor, it will go on him. It will retain on him. So I think he's a good example of being simple. And again, back to Saint Noufer. Saint Noufer is a simple person. He does not like the spotlight. Obviously, he's living in a cave where no one can see him. He's unknown and well known, and being well known, like the Bible says. And yeah, in the eyes of God, that's the real simple people. And one quick story on a personal level, like, especially because Benny asked me to give this talk as a monk, even though it's like, I don't know what the big deal is, but anyway. So like, when I became a monk, I thought that was already like, it was a big occasion. It was like so famous. It was a big occasion. It's very long as well. The ordination, the consecration was so long, and it was very public. They put on YouTube, and it went for like 5 hours. And yeah, but what I really remember is when I did my first mass as a priest, and I'm in charge of like one of my side jobs in the monastery is looking after the YouTube channel. And before we didn't have YouTube, we just used to use the cameras and used to record by camera and the old school way, put the camera and upload to a hard drive and then make CDs and DVDs. And so I used to do it for all the occasions, but I remember I used to do it for the first masses of priests. So I would have done it, I did it for Abuna Thomas's first mass, for example. We recorded like 20, 25 priests by that time. And I used to do it and record it and it's my job. And then I became a priest and it was a big event. I remember the first mass, oh my God, so many people came. At the beginning it was like the Buna teaching me that the mass is like, oh look, not many people coming, 50 people max. Because I remember no one booked. And then the more people came and people came from nowhere. It was like 200 people. Yeah, just a big thing. And anyway, I remember after the mass finished, and I was uploading the video. This is before the YouTube, uploading the video to the channel. And I'm watching the video. I'm like, I cannot believe this is me at the altar. Like, I cannot believe I'm like priest doing my first mass. And I'm not joking. Even when I just uploaded the video to YouTube recently after like many years, I even wrote it on the channel, I still can't believe this is me and it feels surreal after so many years. And then like I'm watching it and I got so distracted doing the video. I'm like, I still can't believe this is me. Like I never thought I would be like quote unquote in the spotlight. Yeah, we're just trying to be, the goal is to just try to be simple people. Try to be simple, a simple monk, try to be a simple Christian, a simple servant. Yeah, that's just on a personal level. And keep yourself humble after that, of course. All right, the question for Benny, how do you attain simplicity? Yeah, I want to ask you, I guess, what do you think? How do you attain simplicity? Yeah, look to the Bible verses. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where your treasure there, your heart will be also.
We have some answers in the room, Abuna. How do I attain
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, go ahead.
Any thoughts, guys? How to attain simplicity? That's very good. Yes. All their minds are working very hard on them.
You said you had answers. You want to keep going? You want to keep going? Keep going. Sure. So one of my close friends, he always used to say, the goal is to die in debt. Actually, I think that's the real goal. I think the goal is to not have any money when you die. Like, I mean, you don't want to be in surplus, because if you die in debt, then you're kind of like a burden to someone else, like your family member. But I get his point, and I 100% agree with him. The goal is not to have surplus. You don't want to store up yourselves treasures. You can't take the money with you when you die. All right. So just say, I like that quote. He used to always say it. Probably still says it. And he said, Christ said, take heed and beware of covetousness. Very important. Again, the biblical term for greed, or the opposite of simplicity, I think. For one's life does not consist in abundance of the things he possesses. That's a refreshing verse to hear. Let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as we have. Yeah, we've got to be more content. Be more thankful for all the little things. Be more thankful for the food you have. Or thankful for so many things. For himself said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. You say in the Mass, you say, not me, the priest, you say in the creed at the end, and we look for the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. You say that. So we don't live for the here and now. We live for the world to come, the eternal life. And I think if we look at ourselves too often, of course, I'm including myself, too often, if we were to look at ourselves today, we're not living for the life to come. We're living for the earth now. But we want to aspire to look for his resurrection then and the life of world to come. I think it's all about perspective. It's all about having the right frame of mind towards possessions, towards being simple-minded, like to many aspects. Yeah, read Deuteronomy 8. I recommend that whole chapter. It's all about remembering the Lord. I put just one verse because you want to avoid this. You don't want to say, then you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gained me this wealth. It's not from you. Anything good that comes through is from the grace of God. Anything like it's not your money, like it's not your hard-earned money. God has given you this grace to work, and His money in the end. And it's not your power that you've done this job. God has given you all this grace, and you remember that you're not worthy for the grace that you're in, the position that you're in. Like if you're in a position of service, or I guess even like other aspects. And of course, look to the good examples. It's just a picture of a couple of saints, like Pope Matthew I. He was a very, very simple Pope. So much so, just one quick story, that he was a Pope and he used to give away everything that he had. And once, like it's recorded in the history of patriarchs, he gave away his bread, like his only food, and he went to the people to go and eat. And he didn't, like, they didn't know he was a patriarch at the beginning. And then the fact, you're the patriarch and you ask us for food, take everything. You know what I mean? Like, he was so simple, so simple. Just one of the example called was Father Manis Suriani. It's a book that we're trying to publish very soon, hopefully. Like I read a story and we translated it, and I read the story. I'm like, yeah, I'm not a monk. I'm not a good monk. Yeah, so etc. Like whoever, like you look to Abuela Thomas. I'm sure he's a good example of being a simple person. Anyone good. Just one quote from the book we're translating on Father Manis Suriani. This is just to show you that, like, I'm not a good example. I'm a bit of a hypocrite. It says here quickly, we said this verse already. Giving is proof. The monk's person it does not possess anything. The monk, okay, because like a monk, it takes a vow to live voluntary poor. And Father Manis was an example of giving without limit, giving away everything that he had. And like I look at this, I'm like, yeah, I got a TV monitor in my room. Yeah, this doesn't match up with the Buddha Manis. But if you even like go into his story even more, he never even used to stay in his own cell. Like he never slept in his cell. He slept in various places. Yeah. Anyway, he's like a cool example. You can read the rest of the story, like this part in your own time. And we should publish this book, God willing, soon. Very, very nice saying. Only passed away like 25 years ago. 35 years ago. Yeah, about 25. Yeah, here's a picture on monitor to show you that I'm a hypocrite. I'm not just such a great example. Yeah, okay. I'm not so great. Not at all. And the last part, Benny asked, what steps can we take to actively pursue simplicity? So the practical. Can we take one answer from the floor? Please, Ben. One.
One thing, guys. One brave person. I want to also know your thoughts on what practical steps we can take for simplicity so we can wrap up. I know Chris has some
Follow Christ.
That's not very practical, though. I agree, following Christ, that's a good step, but it's not really practical. And the question is practical steps. One more.
I think you touched on this earlier, but it's a matter of like perspective and just being more content. So being more appreciative of what you have, I think is the first step.
Yes. Thank you very much. Next time I want to see the screen, Benny, so I can target people. Anyway, so I just put down a few steps. Keep or buy things that are useful rather than fashionable. I think this is an important step. Again, I'm biased. Maybe not biased, but like He may not relate to me because like, oh, I live in a monastery. What does he need? It applies to all Christians. People buy things that are useful rather than fashionable. So like, for example, yeah, I mean, that means you travel light. I'm a very light traveler. Last time when I was traveling from Egypt to Cairo, from Tel Aviv, Jerusalem to Cairo, I put my bag on, it was like 10 kilos. And like, sir, your, this is, we don't want your carry-on bag, we want your luggage. This is my luggage. And so yeah, keep things that are useful rather than fashionable. Yeah, just like, I'm a very practical person. Like once I gave gifts to the other fathers and I got slaughtered for these gifts, I stand by my gift, practical. Christmas serviettes, yeah, and biscuits, that's useful. I didn't like that gift. One time I brought fish, like that's good enough. Yeah, like he's just one better example of myself. This is only a pair of shoes I have. Pair of sandals, pair of shoes. That's it. Nice and simple. I may not be simple in other things, but at least in that I'm doing all right. Keep it simple. Avoid, and this tags on to the point one, avoid the latest and greatest. Yeah, okay, you need a phone or you need shoes, obviously, but you don't have to have the latest and greatest. Be content with what you have, like the person said earlier. You don't have to have the latest iPhone, 15, you know, what happened to the nice phones that work? Yeah, avoid the latest and greatest. Be giving, this is very important. So obviously tithing, very important. Yeah, I mean, it's a biblical command, but it's just the minimum you should do because it's not your money. And personally, I used to love. I used to donate online. Like my way was credit card. It was just the easiest. I never used to have to think about giving money every month or giving money whatever at a certain time. Just automatically take it away to give to church and other charities. So like I even remember one charity I was giving to UNICEF, a lovely charity. And all I did was donate. I never did any of the other stuff. They used to send me letters. If you would like to sponsor a child, like a specific child, or write letters to them, or I said, look, I'm very happy to just donate. Thank you for all the letters. I'm just happy with that. But yeah, you can take it further in other ways to give. Reject habits or dependence. I think it's bad when you say, I can't live without. That's when it's concerning. When you say, I can't live without something, you got to be careful because then you start depending on something and you're like not living simply. I don't really believe in addiction per se, but that's another story before the doctors don't like me. But reject habits and dependence. So I can't live without the iPhone 15. That doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. This seems logical. Buy only what you can afford. And like I just told you, I used to use a credit card before I became a monk. I support the credit. I'm not against credit cards at all. But you should buy what you can afford. And if you can't afford it, like if you can't pay it up at the end of the month, you should be careful. Why? Because the Bible says to avoid usury, the biblical term for like borrowing money from people. And I'll confess, even once I borrowed money from a friend, and like I ran out of money, and maybe that's because of what I had. Like maybe I had too many possessions or wasn't being wise with my money, and I borrowed money from him. And yeah, like I shouldn't. That's not the Bible actually says not to do that. Like it said in Psalm 15, he should avoid usury. That he should not put his money at usury. So yeah, you really got to avoid that. And the last thing, which I think is critical, seek God and his kingdom. If you do that, I think all these steps will come. The grace will come. It will lead to the grace. I can't tell you what to do. I don't know you. I can't even see you on the screen. I don't even know who you are. Like I can't tell you what to do. You need to be guided by your confession father. Like I can't tell you should give up this, you should get rid of this, or you should do this, or you should buy this or not buy this and so forth. But I just say that if you see God in his kingdom, God will give you his grace to help you make an informed decision of what to do. It will give you the perspective about what to do. I firmly believe that. Doesn't mean we don't plan. Like we should plan and like like have like a system and so forth. But it's really to do with the trust. If you see God in his kingdom, you trust him, he will guide you and help you in dealing with what to do. in being more simple. And I think that's what Saint Noufer did. I think Saint Noufer sought God in his kingdom. He went out to the desert. God gave him the grace, and he didn't he had like an idea in his head what he's going to do. He's going to go into the desert, and God's going to guide him, but he doesn't know exactly how he's going to survive. And God guided him there to live 60 years in a special grace. And now he's well known. If anyone calls out his name, he will be blessed. We'll skip this because of time. And just one quick video, if Benjamin gives me the permission. Sorry, hasn't given me the permission yet.
Go ahead, I want to go ahead.
Monasticism is all about obedience, so I have to obey.
That's why you started playing the video straight away, huh?
No, I took it back. It was an accident. So this is a story. They took it off YouTube actually in Saint Macary's monastery. It's a documentary called "The Light of the Desert" in French, and with English subtitles. And they talk about like a famous hermit monk that I also met before in Saint Macary's monastery. And they interview him, ask him a couple of questions, and he looked at his simple life. I remember when I visited him about 10 years ago, and like he goes, "Don't record my face," but he let me record like the cave, his cave and stuff. He's very old now. I don't think he lives in the cave full time, like because his old age. But yeah, he's like a big hermit monk, he lives a simple life. So we'll just quickly, it's 2 or 3 minutes. The video is taken down from YouTube. I don't know why, but I just put it up I hope other people can.
À une faible distance se trouve la grotte du père Mina, le premier compagnon du père Matel Maskine, l'un des 7 ermites du monastère Saint-Macaire. Il vit ici à la manière des premiers moines du désert.
ما الذي يتعلمه الإنسان في البرية؟
أن يكون له حب صادق مع المسيح.
D'avoir un amour authentique, sincère envers le Christ.
Et quelle expérience de Dieu fait-on?
ما هو الاختبار الذي يختبره عن الله في البرية؟
هو اختبار الصداقة الشخصية الحميمة بالرب يسوع نفسه.
On fait l'expérience de l'amitié personnelle, intime, avec la personne du Seigneur Jésus.
هو إحساس داخلي بعشرة الرب، إحساس داخلي واضح جدا بعشرة الرب.
Le sentiment intérieur très réel, très vécu de l'intimité avec le Seigneur. Je suis avec vous.
Merci.
Thank you so much. Glory be to God forevermore.
Thank you very much, Abuna. We can't thank you enough for your time this evening. We'll just ask the roof if there's any questions. Any questions, guys? Anything you'd like to ask Father John?
How does he keep it simple?
He kind of should. That was a question, Abuna. How do you keep it simple? But I think you showed us your alaya.
You mean me personally? Is that the question?
Yeah, you personally, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we try to apply the 6 things that I was saying, the 6 practical steps that I was saying. Yeah, and again, I think it's about perspective. So if someone like has this perspective, God will guide him. Like if you see God in His kingdom, God will guide you. Yeah, but we're trying to be practical in what we do. We try to keep things that are useful rather than fashionable. Try to avoid the less fashion. We're going to be giving. Like it's not just about possessions. It's giving in everything. Giving in our time. Giving to other people. I think the more one grows, seeks God obviously, and the one more grows in reading His Word, God will guide him through His confession, Father. I don't think it's a black and white answer, because that's why I just put at the beginning, living simply. Well, what does that mean? And then we try to look at the opposite and avoid it, and take it from there. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Warren. Any other questions? If not, I think I wonder if you could lead us in prayer, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, before that, I just want to say, because every speaker says the same thing, you need to come to the first 4 rows every single time. I'm waiting for someone to say, I'm going to say it, I guess, just stay where you like, I don't care. But anyway, I just wanted to say it. Sorry. I know you're not going to be happy with that, Benjamin. I'm sorry. Every time they say the same thing. Oh, I'll do a short prayer. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God. I mean, thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to have this meeting, to learn on your word, to contemplate on your word, and to try to live simply and take comfort in seeking God in His kingdom, your kingdom, and we will find life. We ask you, Lord, to guide us through like the biblical examples that we've seen, and through the Saint Noufer, the hermit. We try to aspire aspects of their life. We don't have to go to extreme levels, but if we do that, if we turn to imitate in parts of the life, you will guide us and you will fill us with your peace. Help us, Lord, to live simply. Bless all the servants there. Bless the priests of St. Barbara Church and all those who are standing before His name, or before your name, and guide us, Lord, through the prayers of Saint Mary and all the saints. Make us very thanksgiving, our Father. Amen.
Thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, and more. Amen. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I just thought you could pray for us at once. I don't bore you with the announcements, but thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it, and please keep us in your prayers.
Thank you. And again, if you're upset about the Zoom, it was Benjamin's idea. Okay, so just to clarify.
The whole room is buzzing, Abuna. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, thank you.
Salam, Abuna.